Water. It's everywhere in Seattle. But is it safe for our children and families? Myself and a highly trained professional team of reporters set out to gather this information. We headed out to Green Lake, one of Seattle's most notable water sources. And the data we found will shock or even surprise you. We tested for fecal coliform, which is exactly what it sounds like. Feces. The results of the fecal coliform test came back from our lab 2 days later with surprising results. The lake was positive for fecal coliform. And that's not all. There were signs everywhere warning about toxic algae, which if eaten in high doses could kill you and your family. This is not stuff to joke around about. Toxic algae blooms have killed over 240 manatees. And while there is no evidence that manatees provide anything to the environment, if toxic algae can harm a manatee, it can most definitely harm a human being. We next interviewed Stephen Codling, a business and technology teacher at Ingram High School.
Do you think more like Green Lake would be safe to swim in?
Well, unless they announce that one of these toxic outcroppings, which happens sometimes, basically the facts are the water here is almost too clean because then the bacteria starts to feed upon itself. Hence things like, some of the, what's trying to think of the name of the, I'll think of it in a minute, the wheat that started growing up inside the, so Lake Washington is by far the biggest clean lake project urban in the world. Mm-hmm. Okay, when I was a kid, 10 years old, I remember swimming in Lake Washington and getting impetigo instant, because at that point they were still dumping all the sewage into the lake. Yep. And when you're youngest of 4 boys and you get impetigo, watch out, because I got on my buns, so my brothers thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, to swim in, then there's basically it's phenomenally clean water and very safe compared to bodies of water that I've seen. For instance, the continent of Africa has bilharzia in all the water, standing water. And you can't even jump in there and take a bath. I learned that firsthand.
Would you say that we need to take any measures to keep our water clean in the next few years?
By any measure, Seattle is...
Like any measures that we're not already taking?
Well, by any measure now, Seattle Water and Seattle Water Maintenance is probably unsurpassed anywhere in the world. I don't know anybody who does a better job and is more conscientious about it. So my answer would be, we don't need to do any extra steps. We need to maintain that what we're doing.
Would you still swim in that lake water knowing that it has high levels of algae in it and tested highly positive for fecal matter?
If I knew that was the case, no, I wouldn't.
Do you think other people in the community know this?
I think when you use the expression fecal matter, most people will avoid that particular swimming hole, unless, of course, it's a reading that is negligible. I mean, I'm not sure. You might get there might be places I swim. I swim in Lake Washington all the time, for instance. If someone told me that the lake I've been swimming in all this time had a negligible but a real fecal reading, I'd still swim in it. Mm-hmm. But I would be conscious of levels. I would do the research to see if it's no worse than it has been the last 5-10 years I've swum in Lake Washington. I wouldn't hesitate to still swim.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So now I just want to ask a question about drinking.
Yeah.
Like, obviously our water doesn't come from Puget Sound or Lake Washington or Green Lake.
Correct.
But do you think it would be safe to drink after boiling?
There has been a now uncountable test done with Seattle drinking water, comparing it to bottled water. Mm-hmm. No one can tell the difference. No one. So any of you guys who spend money on bottled water are schmucks. You know, the water on the tap is absolutely fine, and literally scientists in a laboratory cannot tell it apart from the water you spend money for in a plastic bottle. So now they just went through this recent scare on Mercer Island where they had to boil water for a while, and it was an E. coli, and they still don't know where it came from. It's a complete mystery to them why the fine citizens of Mercer Island had to boil their water for a couple of weeks. But it hasn't happened in Seattle ever that I remember, and I've been here a long time.
Do you think we have to take any measures in the next couple of years to change these lakes, or do you think we can keep treating them the way that we are now?
Well, I'm a little bit curious of what these lakes are.
Lake Washington, Green Lake.
Lake Washington, Green Lake, Hollow Lake, which is right next to Ingram.
Well, now I know there's outbreaks, like Matthews Beach has had some outbreaks of undesirability in Lake Washington. Green Lake had a high algae count. They closed it down and so clearly, you know, they've got to figure out what's causing these changes. But drastically different than what we're doing, no, because I go back to the fact that, you know, Lake Washington's an amazingly successful reclamation project by any measure. But you've got to keep your standards up. You know, you got to keep your standards up. I mean, you know, somebody testing it all the time, they're reading it and ensuring that, you know, do the tests have integrity? My point is that when they started treating Lake Washington in 1960, I think it was, 1961, that was so far gone and such a horrible polluted mess. They did the obvious things, let's quit putting sewage into it, but that was really an acute, horrible mess. If they solve that problem, I believe that whatever they've come up with now, which is minor parts of the lake occasionally showing a little high E. coli level or whatever, that's a modest challenge compared to what they had to do at one point in Lake Washington. So my sense is that, you know, be vigilant, do your thing, maybe make some adjustments here and there, but the mechanisms are clearly in place to have really dependable, clean swimming water and, of course, drinking water. As I say, I think there's been one example, that was the Mercer Island deal, and it's some concern to me right now because they don't know what happened. They still don't know what happened. They're kind of going, oh.
As you know, there's like a drought. This is in California, but it's still like right next to us. We're on the west coast. So I was just wondering, do you think that people conserving water by like turning the tap off or making sure it doesn't leak does anything to help with that?
You know, yeah, it's always a bad idea to waste water. You know, if nothing else, you know, we can all make money off of selling water to people that don't have it because, you know, we pay for our water dearly with cloudy days, it rain a lot, you know, all that kind of stuff. So wasting anything is a bad idea. So have good water habits, don't waste them, and then, you know, let the marketplace do its thing as far as how California gets its water or doesn't get its water. But it is that, I will tell you that because of that water issue in California, we'll have significant issues up here. We already are. You know, it's clearly one of the factors in people in the real estate market here being hotter than hot. You know, I was lucky, I've lived all over the world and found out as I went around and looked, this is where people want to live. Why? Because the temperatures aren't too extreme and there's plenty of water for growing and drinking at all times. So, and until you're without those things, it's really hard to appreciate, you know, what people who are struggling without them, what they go through. I was listening to a story this morning on the news. They're having water court now, water usage court in California, right? Mm-hmm. And that you go in there, if you get an $800 fine, they'll knock $500 of it off if you make an eloquent enough responses to why you use this water and ask for forgiveness about using it. It was a really funny story. I was going, God, this is just, you know, very Orwellian almost.
We next interviewed Dale Wade, a sophomore at Ingram High School.
Dale, what do you think about the current situation of lakes in Seattle?
Well, the lakes in Seattle, I think, are fine. I'd be more concerned about the lakes in more arid countries or states.
If you were given an opportunity to swim in a lake in Seattle, would you?
I'd have to say it really depends on the lake. I'd be cool with Holler Lake and probably Lake Washington.
We'll cut
Do you
all of
think
it.
that fecal matter and other dangerous toxins found in these Seattle lakes could affect the health of the communities around them?
Yes.
Do you see the water situation in Seattle getting better in the next couple of years?
It could, or it could get worse. It really depends on how well they start to take care of it.
Next, we interviewed Andrea. Andrea is also a sophomore at Ingram High School, and she had a lot to say about the state of water in Seattle.
Do you think that the water in Seattle, mainly Green Lake and Holler Lake, are safe to swim in for children
Children.
and for normal people?
No, and for normal people. I've swum in Green Lake before. I didn't receive any infections or anything. Green Lake is safe. I never swam in Holler Lake, but I think it's probably cleanish.
Yeah.
Would you still want to swim in it, knowing that it could make you,
Dead.
children you know, and your family sick to the point of dying?
No, I wouldn't want to swim in any kind of water that would cause that.
How do you feel about the elderly swimming in Green Lake? Do you think this will affect their mental or physical health in any way?
Well, being that they're elderly, they're probably more susceptible to whatever is in the water, so I am concerned for them.
Do you think that in the past couple of years, human interaction with these lakes has made the water quality worse?
No, definitely. Like a lot of causes of pollution have been through human interaction or just direct contact from us.
Is there more that
Please.
people could be doing to improve the quality of these lakes that they're not doing now? And if so, why aren't they doing it?
We're just lazy people. Or maybe it's because sometimes we're not aware about things like PCBs or things that will eventually reach these lakes without us even knowing it, even if we're not, even though it's not intentional. Sometimes like littering or something, that's probably you know that's a negative effect on the environment, but then there are other things like maybe washing your dishes, you won't realize it's just something.
As you can tell, this is a serious problem. Manatees have died. 241 manatees' blood are on your hands. And you know who else is dead? Roogan, our cameraman and interviewer. He drank the water and now he's dead. He died because someone threw a bottle of Coke in the water. People need to step up their water cleaning game. Next time you have a bunch of dangerous algae, don't put it in the water. And next time you want to drown a baby, don't do it. Okay? This is serious. There are children who eat the algae and probably get sick somehow. You heard Mr. Codling, our interviewee, our first one. He got a disease and the kids laughed at him. Don't let this happen. You can prevent this. Step up, go to your local water cleaning facility and clean the water. It's up to you now.
This is wrong. If no action is taken in the next 5 years by the communities in Seattle to clean our water, will our water be safe for our children and families?
No.
Are you gonna have bloopers in your guys' video?
No. This is a serious documentary. I'm an editing